you can take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Like, you can be a spiritual gangster. You can listen to whatever music you want to, you can eat whatever food you want to, and still appreciate parts of this lifestyle. You don't have to be all 100% hippie or nothing. Like, literally just integrate what you want to integrate and leave what you don't want to integrate, okay? Simply give your energy to what you want to make a priority. What is up, Star Seeds? I'm Sid, and today we are going to be talking about balancing your life once you have gone through an awakening of some kind. We can call this a spiritual awakening. We can call this getting into healthy alternatives for things awakening, conspiracy theory, truth awakening, etc. There's lots of different types of awakening, but usually when you go through an awakening, you feel kind of secluded from the rest of the world. You feel different from your family, your friends, people in your environment, coworkers, neighbors, etc. You want to share this knowledge with them because you want a sense of community, of understanding, of not feeling crazy, feeling heard, feeling understood, feeling seen, feeling like you have hope for the world, since hopefully they understand too and want good things and have good intentions too and see the truth. But also, you don't want to come across as a freak, as a creep, as a crazy lunatic. So you also want to kind of try to keep things to yourself. So that's like one of the main things, probably one of the first things we think of finding balance once you go through an awakening, is to share your message, to spread your light, to plant the seeds for people, but also don't come across so overbearing so that they're like, wow, that girl's crazy. Everything she says is crazy. Astrology is crazy. Aliens are crazy. There's a balance to be had with that so that you can help other people awaken too, if that's part of your mission. There's other things we need to balance in our life too. If you go through an awakening and you realize, I'm so passionate about this, I want to make it part of my career, but I also don't want to go broke from, lack of financial stability and security with my regular matrix job, but like I want to have this online crystal shop, or I want to have this intuitive business, life coach, or host events, or what have you. There's a balance to be had with that at the beginning. Unless you're one of those people who is lucky, is in this good position, you can say F it and you can go for it and just do your business until it takes off because you believe in it, and it does, and it works out amazing. Like, I love when that happens for people. I currently do have a balance going on right now of being a teacher and then having my YouTube channel. I don't get any money from YouTube, but I still do it because I love doing it. I do sessions for people. I have courses. I do not just intuitive Akashic record readings, but I do qhht. I do sometimes just spiritual counseling, coaching, astrology advice, pendulum answers, card readings, but I only do that a couple days a week. And actually the balance is going down for a bit in the summer, possibly, but that's something you have to balance. I call this my real work on YouTube and stuff. This is my real job. This is my career. My matrix job is my side hustle, if you will. Most people refer to it as the opposite, but refer to it however you want. There comes that balance of what you tell to your family when they ask you what you do. It's much easier for me to say I'm a teacher, but I refuse to do that. There's a balance with all things in life. It's not just once you go through a spiritual awakening, but it's even more so when you do go through a spiritual awakening, because this is a huge thing that gets thrown on you with how you act around other people, what you do for work, not to mention when you have the time to research your spiritual stuff, when you have the time to, if you're into doing certain kinds of rituals and things, when you have time to do that, when you have money to buy certain things. This also comes into play when you become a health nut and you realize that, especially in the US, we're being poisoned with our food and our water and our beauty products, our toiletry products, our cleaning products, our technology, like literally everything, not to mention the air and the weather, but we're not going to get into that in this video. Balance, how you navigate that. People say everything in moderation, and I feel like, yeah, sure, everything in moderation, but it doesn't have to be an 80-20 split. I know some people who, when it comes to their diet, they are not messing around. They eat a handful of things that they know is good for them, so their diet is good, but then, you know, they have certain technology, certain things with Bluetooth, etc. A lot of people say 80-20 split, like for everything in general, 80% super healthy stuff, 20% super not. I don't think that number is completely realistic, because we are probably absorbing that 20% through things that we can't control. So it probably is more of a 70-30 or 65-35. The numbers don't necessarily matter to me, because I know that my thoughts and my intentions overpower all else. But yeah, obviously I try to stay as healthy as possible. I don't get fully wrapped up in what I will and will not consume. I use my intuition for that, and I try to have clear boundaries with my friends and family, but that does not always work. So it's up to you to set your own moderation. You can control things in your home if you're, you know, living by yourself, or if whoever you're living with is like super on board, on page with you. I'm not bringing that kind of food in the house. I'm not bringing this kind of technology or whatever in the house. That is something that you can have control over. But when you go to friends, family, work, you can't control everything that happens there. You can't control if your work doesn't recycle. Yes, you can bring that recycling home and try to recycle it, even though the recycling system is corrupt. You can try and do that to feel better about yourself. But ultimately, people are going to do what they want to do, and you can't control everything. And yes, you do want to be realistic so that your life doesn't like completely crumble, but your happiness matters so much. So making any changes that are appropriate and achievable for you to make to be happy, I am all for. As long as you're not hurting anybody else in the process, it's just a risk for you to take for your happiness. I say freaking do it, unless something in your gut, in your heart, in your soul is telling you otherwise. Take it easy, ease yourself into it. I wish I could give you guys a step-by-step guide to finding balance, but I don't really see how that is fully possible, because it totally depends on everybody and their own situation. I think you are the person who knows yourself best. I do give pretty good advice, if I do say so myself. The answers tend to be pretty simple, universal. You usually already know the answer. That is how the universe works. That is how your higher self comes through, is like, you usually already know it, because it's the highest version of you. You know yourself best, okay? I can tap into it for you, but ultimately, you probably already had that inkling long before. If not forever, maybe you completely forgot it, but that sparked a remembrance and it resonates. The moral of the story is, the awakening never ends. Okay, I've said this before and I'll say it again. You're always gonna find more things that you will have to find the right balance of. Organizing your house, literally everything in life. The balance of laundry and dishes and job and passion projects and hobbies and relationships and friendships, parenting and doing your own thing. Like, there's so many things we all need to find balances of. Being a spiritual person throws a lot more into this. Also, people who go through an awakening, people who are more spiritual, I think are into more different things because they have a greater mental capacity. So they want to get into, you know, crocheting and survival skills and this and that and camping and canning. People who are not as spiritual probably have more of those basic hobbies like sports or other things, other artistic things probably too, but their mind is usually more open if they're artistic. You can totally be into sports and be spiritual too. But I think my number one tip for finding that balance is that you can split the week up into different days. For one, like, I have certain days I work on this stuff. If I have time other days and I feel called to, I will work that in there. But I have certain days every week that I go to my matrix job. I have certain days every week that I am more prone to going to the grocery store or running errands or make appointments and things like this. So if you can dedicate certain days of the week to doing certain things, if you can align them to your astrology, that helps. I do like going with the flow, waking up and doing whatever suits me that day. That's great. But if you have a lot of stuff on your plate that you're trying to do like me, it does kind of help to dedicate days of the week to doing that, or certain times of the day. Because also, I'm trying to work out more too, so it's like I have to dedicate a couple hours near the end of my day to that if I want to do that. And I don't have time for it every day. Some weeks I have time for it every day, but not every week, not most weeks. And yeah, this is probably common sense because it's complicatedly simple, and it is up to you, right? It's up to every individual to find their own balance for everything. But I don't want you guys to not fully get into your passions. You need to make time for your passions. Yes, working out, your physical health matters, but hopefully you can do that while you're researching what you're passionate about. Hopefully you can multitask at least a couple things. If you want to watch YouTube videos, listen to YouTube videos, hopefully if it's like just the audio or podcast or whatever, to get more into spirituality, you can do that while you're doing the dishes, while you're cooking food, while you're folding the laundry, while you're doing certain types of workouts, while you're driving. Like, that is something that you can multitask. I think it was a game changer when I got pre-made meals because I was spending so much time cooking. And it is great if you can spend time cooking while you're researching and stuff, but if that is like not a priority anymore, I have saved so much time from pre-made healthy meals being delivered to my house. Like I said, I love to go with the flow, but when you're trying to find balance, you have to have a little bit of a routine. I am not a routine person. I'm a very organized person, but I am not a routine person. I'm a to-do list, and it's not everything I need to do today. There might be a couple things I need to do today and a couple things I need to do tomorrow, but it's more so just a list, and I get to it when I get to it. And you know your schedule, you know how you can make it work, but you do have to kind of plan it out and come up with a slight schedule that you can alter, because you can't have a balance if you're like, I have to do all this day and I have to do all that day. You have to be open-minded in order to find a balance, because if you don't get all of this done, the balance gets out of whack. You have to throw that task over there. You have to be willing to do that. If you feel like you need to go outside, that's gonna make you more productive, then you need to go outside, you need to do that, and then you'll have more energy to do the rest of what you need to do. If you are looking for spiritual friends, but you can't find any, understand that not every friend you have has to meet all the criteria you want in a cool person in your life. You can have one friend that is super cool to talk to one thing about, and one friend that is super cool to talk to another thing about. We need to stop thinking that we need to find the perfect best friend, because we can have multiple people in our life that have parts of this dream person. No, they're characteristics that you want in a friend. You can have one friend that's into crystals, you can have one friend that's into music, you can have one friend that's into survival skills. You don't have to put it all onto one person. You don't have to have all that pressure on one friend that's already existing to change, to conform to all of these new, curiosities and interests and passions that you have. You can have multiple friends that are into different things. That's a part of finding balance too. You don't have to talk with all of this to one family member. You can find a family member who is at least partially foot in the door of one subject. You can find another family member who is partially foot in the door of another subject. That might involve some trial and error. That might involve sounding a little bit crazy, but test the waters with your family. If you want to talk about this stuff with your family, you have to test the water and see who is responding okay to certain topics that you're talking about. That's how you find balance in conversation. You can use this technique with coworkers, you can use this technique with neighbors. Just throw a little bit out there, and if they bite, you can throw more out there about that certain subject. You have to ease into it, and yes, you can do easing all in one day if they're all for it. But if they're not all for it, it's gonna take multiple different encounters to get them into it or to gauge where they are on that subject. All right, you guys, I appreciate you so much. Peace out.